Hey guys, welcome back to AlgoYogi. We are doing array and hashing series, and our next problem in the list is first unique character in a string. So let's go to LeetCode. It's a really simple problem. So given a string S, find the first known repeating character in it and return its index. If it does not exist, then return -1. So one-liner description of this problem. All right, so I've taken the first example here. So as you can see, like we are given a string in this problem, a string S, which contains lowercase English letters. It's given in the constraints. You guys can check it out. Now we need to return the index of first non-repeating character. So from left to right, we're going to check for each string. If that string does not exist again in the remaining string to its right, we will be returning its index. So in this particular example, if we want to solve it a very naive way, a brute force way, you can say, what I'll be doing is for each string going from left to right, so I will use a for loop, let's say I, and I will iterate over all the indexes, and then j will iterate from I plus 1 to the n. Okay, this I will go from I to n minus 1, and this will go from I plus 1 to n minus 1. All right, so what we are doing is we're gonna pick the character at the ith index. In this case it's L, and for j we're gonna check in the remaining string, is L repeated in my remaining string. Well, you can see that L is not repeated again, so that is why that is my answer, and I will return 0. So I will return 0 because that is the index of my first non-repeating characters. And if, let's say, if this occurred somewhere, then we can just basically break out from that loop and come back to my I, and I will be incremented. So I will start from here. Then we will check for E. E will also, if it doesn't exist anymore, then we can return the index of E. Otherwise, we continue finding our answer. Well, that was a very naive way of solving this. What would be a better way of solving this? So if you want to know the time complexity of brute force approach, that will be of course big of n square, because you are using two for loops. First, for each string you are looking for, in the entire string you're searching the same string again, and if you don't find it, that's when you return your answer. But what if I use a little bit of space, because we have only lowercase English letters? What if I use a dictionary and then store the count of each character, and then I iterate only once from in this string and check if there is a string, there is a character, and its count is only 1. That means it only occurred once, and I'm going from left to right. So first character I find whose count is 1 in my counter, in my dictionary, which stores the frequency of these characters, then I can just simply return that index. All right, so that makes it super simple. So what I'll do is I will have a map, or I can call it maybe char map. So I'll call it char map, and in this I will be storing the count of each character. So L appears once, E appears 3 times, T appears once, C appears once, O, so and so. Here is my count char map, and then I will use a for loop. So for I and C, in, you can say enumerate, that's the function to iterate the index and character inside my S. And then if the count of, so char map C is equals to 1, that is my answer. So I will return the I, otherwise I will return -1. That was the ask of the problem. This is the answer, and it's the most optimal answer that you can actually do for these problems, because since you introduce this char map, so we basically have our space complexity big of 26, you can also say big of 1 constant, and our time complexity for this problem would be big of n, because first creating this map and then iterating over their entire string, we are doing these two passes, but you're doing them independently, not as part of these nested for loops. So that is why the space time complexity will be big of n. All right, so this is a really simple problem. Let's implement our solution. I'll change the view. All right, now you can see. So I'll call it char map, and simply, we're gonna fill this for C in S, and I'm gonna say for, you can also use it if you're coding in Python, then you can just use counter. That's an inbuilt function to just count the frequencies. But I would say most of the time, try to use the something that you write of your own. Avoid like any these inbuilt functions that are not present in all the programming languages. So here, either you just get the count that's already there, otherwise, or you add one because you are seeing this character. Now simply for I in range len s, so if this character at s, so if char map the frequency of this character at the ith position, so si, if this is equals to 1, that means its count is just 1, then I can just return simply that index, otherwise I will return -1. That was the ask of the problem. So I'll zoom out. Let's try our code, run it on our example cases, and then we will submit it. So everything looks good. Awesome. So as we talked about, we can write the time complexity that was big of n. N is the size of our s, the length of our s, and for space complexity, I'm gonna say it's gonna be big of 1, right? That's what you can say, big of 26. Let's go back to AlgoYogi, mark this problem solved. See you guys later in the next problem.